Yaoyao is our chibi Dendro healer with a great skill set even without any constellations. She is the cutest and also she is a great support. She is the first Dendro healer, so she opened up great opportunities for possible Dendro themed compositions. Hi, I'm Metavit, and in this guide, we'll go over Yaoyao's talents and kit, constellations, best artifacts, weapons, and team compositions. Before we get into our guide, if you hit the like button below, it would definitely be very much appreciated. And also, if you consider subscribing to my channel, it would be a huge help. So let's start with her elemental skill. On her elemental skill, Yaoyao throws her bunny Yugoi. This bunny stays in the field for 10 seconds while throwing a radish on every second. Now if you or your co-op friends have a character on field with an HP lower than 70%, then these radishes are thrown at that character, whether an enemy is nearby or not. If an enemy is nearby and the on-field character has more than 70% HP, Yugoi will target enemies at random instead. If no enemy is nearby and your HP isn't full, Yugoi will target your character. And if no enemy is nearby and your character's HP is full, Yugoi will randomly throw radishes around. Now let's look into the radishes more closely. Their damage is counted as skill damage and scales on Yaoyao's attack, while the healing scales on her maximum HP. If a radish doesn't initially hit a character or an enemy, it stays on the ground until a character or enemy touches it, or its time is up, which is 5 seconds. These radishes have a small AoE, so if enemies are clumped together closely enough, they will take damage together. This effect also works to your advantage. If the radish hits an enemy that's very close to you, the enemy will take damage while you receive healing and vice versa. Her A4 passive allows the active character in its AoE to gain a small amount of HP every second for 5 seconds. You will see a green shimmer around the character when this effect is activated. The healing you will receive this way is not very impressive but supports Yugoi's main healing. So how often these radishes apply Dendro or cause a reaction? What is their ICD? Over its 10-second duration, if all the radishes hit an enemy, they apply Dendro 4 times, which means an ICD of approximately 2.5 seconds. This is for a single target, and I have better news for multiple target scenarios. In this setting, the total number of Dendro applications can be higher, since ICD is counted per enemy and Yugoi targets enemies at random. This means it can apply Dendro every second if the radishes do not hit the same enemy twice within the ICD of 2.5 seconds. Now let's look into the energy generation of the radishes. A Dendro particle is generated only if Yugoi's radish hits an enemy. No particle is generated if it only hits your character. And particle generation has a 2-second cooldown, which means you can get 5 particles over the 10-second duration of the skill. Next up, her burst. When you cast her burst, she enters the Adaptal Legacy state for 5 seconds. This gives her Dendro resistance bonus and her movement speed is increased by 15%. In this state, her radishes simultaneously deal damage and heal. Also, the healing effect now applies to the entire party, and the damage dealt this way is counted as burst damage. In her Adaptal Legacy state, Yaoyao throws additional Yugoi. This version of the rabbits is called Yugoi Jumping Mode. A maximum of 3 Yugoi Jumping Mode rabbits can exist at any one time. The Adaptal Legacy state will end if Yaoyao leaves the field, and all remaining Yugoi Jumping Mode will be cleared once this state ends. With her A1 passive, if Yaoyao is running, sprinting, or jumping during this state, she will throw even more radishes, so don't forget to run around and jump while using her burst. I believe this makes Yaoyao's character design extra cute. For those of you who have questions about Dendro application of her burst, it will be a maximum of 5 times on a single target. Note that Yaoyao's elemental skill shares ICD with her burst, but if there are multiple enemies, it will still result in more Dendro applications in total. And about talent priorities. It is a bit up to your preferences since both her skill and burst are important for her kit. If you are using her elemental skill more, then level up her skill, and if you are using her burst more, then level up her burst. But in any case, you will most probably leave her attack staff for the last, although you can even build her to clear up child. Now let's look at the artifact stats. If you want to build a pure healer, you will want HP or energy recharge on your sands, HP on your goblet, and HP or healing bonus on your circlet. If you want to place her into a quicken team, you would want to go for either Elemental Mastery or Attack on the Sands of Aeon. On your goblet, you will want Dendro damage bonus, and on your circlet, you will want crit rate or damage. For your sands, Elemental Mastery is generally a better choice, especially as you will be able to benefit from the spread reaction and especially against multiple targets. And for a bloom build, you will want to prioritize energy recharge to make sure you have enough to burst, and also either maximizing EM to maximize your bloom damage or maximizing HP to maximize your healing. So in a bloom team, your sands can either be energy recharge, elemental mastery or HP. Your goblet can either be elemental mastery or HP, and your circlet can either be elemental mastery, HP or healing bonus. In my opinion, focusing on the reaction damage is a bit better, but if you are struggling with staying alive because of all that damage you take by getting self-bloom, you can feel free to go for HP for a more health-supported build. Next, recommended artifact sets for Yaoyao. First off, let's talk about before AR45. Before you hit AR45, you shouldn't really waste a lot of resin farming anything, because you're gonna end up replacing all those artifacts anyway. If you are just looking for something to use on Yaoyao at the moment, you can give her anything with energy recharge or HP percent. Instructor can be a really good 4-piece set for the beginning. It is a good support set in general. The main thing you need to focus on is just energy recharge on your sands, HP on your gauntlet, and HP or healing bonus on your circlet. Once you get to AR45, you have a whole bunch of set options. Yaoyao's personal damage is not that good, so if you want to get a lot of value out of her, you are going to want to build her as a support. The first set I will recommend is the 4-piece Deepwood set. This set makes her shred Dendro resistance by 30% and works really well if you are going for Dendro reactions and also have a Dendro DPS such as Alhaden. With this set, whenever your elemental skill or burst hits an opponent, you will decrease their Dendro resistance for 8 seconds, and it can be triggered even off-field, which means you can throw your bunny and then switch to your damage dealer and slash your enemies with Dendro damage and Dendro reactions. But if you are not interested in Dendro as a way to deal damage, then you can skip to the next one. The second option is the 4-piece Tenacity set. This is a good set if she is just a general healer for a team that's not about Dendro damage. Yaoyao can proc its effect off-field with her bunny, giving your team an attack buff and also increasing shield strength. The third option is the 4-piece Instructor set. This one lets you buff your entire team's EM, making it useful for your team's reaction damage. One good example is a Nilu Bloom team where anyone can be a Bloom trigger. However, since the pieces only go up to 4-star quality, they will have a lower stat ceiling compared to using a 5-star set. Yaoyao is a great unit already at C0 and she is not a constellation dependent character in my opinion. But of course, constellations make decent additions to her kit, so you may want to check them out. With C1, characters within the AoE of Jade Radish explosions get a 15% Dendro damage bonus for 8 seconds and have a 15 stamina restored. This can occur every 5 seconds. It is a minor boost that matters more if you have other Dendro damage dealers in your team such as Alhaden, but at the very least, Yaoyao can herself make use of it. And the stamina boost can help you use more charged attacks. Now C2 is a really good one for your energy recharge needs. It is a really good constellation to have, especially in a Nilu Bloom team where you are using your burst as often as possible. But also just in general, as it will give you a ton of energy. When you use your burst, you will gain 3 energy every 0.8 seconds when you are inside of your burst, if a white Jade Radish explosion hits an enemy. So I would say this is her best constellation. It helps reduce her ER requirements, allowing you to focus more on other stats. C3 just increases her skill talent level by 3. C4 gives Yaoyao some elemental mastery based on her maximum HP whenever she uses her skill or burst. This constellation is good if you are proccing reactions on your Yaoyao, in a Nilu Bloom team for example. This constellation gives her skill and burst an EM buff. Her EM is increased by 0.3% of her own HP, so if you build her with high HP for healing, and then at least a bit of it helps boost her reaction damage. In most cases, she is not going to be triggering a majority of the reactions herself, so this constellation can end up being a little less useful for a healer or support field. On Constellation 5, her burst skill level increases by 3, and at C6, a Mega Radish is thrown after every 2 radishes Yugo throws, and that Mega Radish has a larger AoE, and when it explodes it deals a higher damage and also heals more than the regular Radish. So do you need her constellations? C2 is a good stopping point since C1 gives a Dendro damage bonus that some teammates or Yaoyao herself can make use of, and C2 helps with lowering her ER requirements. Basically, her constellations are generally quality of life improvements, making her a pretty good C0 unit. Moving on to her build, we can categorize some recommendations depending on what role you plan to use her in. For the most part, her general support build is that of a healer, but there are other builds that can let her do more damage or offer more versatile support. If you are using her mainly for healing plus Dendro application, then the stats are pretty straightforward. The sands can either be HP or ER depending on what you need more. The goblet will be HP % for more healing. Then the circlet can either be HP % or healing bonus, though healing bonus can offer stronger healing. And of course, this build will not contribute to damage much. Another option is to build her a bit of a hybrid to make Yaoyao trigger blooms more efficiently. This could work in a Nilou bloom team. You can achieve this by giving her pieces with EM main stat, but trading EM for HP means that you will lose healing potency while gaining more reaction damage. You can also build Yaoyao for dealing spread damage. It enables Yaoyao to do more damage on the side, but obviously you won't get the same level of damage you would get with a unit that is supposed to be a DPS. To build her this way, you will need elemental mastery on her artifacts and prioritize energy recharge on their substats. Obviously, you will be sacrificing a lot of healing. Next up, best weapons for Yaoyao. There are various recommendations depending on what her role is. The most recommended weapon for her support role is Favonius Lens. It provides you energy recharge and fits any team. Other good choices for a support role are Prototype Star Glitter for its ER stat, and maybe Kitain Sphere for its energy refunding mechanic. If you don't have those, you can opt for Black Tassel, which is a 3-star weapon. It has healing as a second stat, so it means more healing from Yaoyao. If you are using her to trigger reactions, then you may want to pick Kitain Spear, Moon Piercer, or Dragon's Bane for their EM stat. Moon Piercer is not the best choice because its attack buff is irrelevant for bloom teams. Kitain Spear, on the other hand, provides energy recharge, making it a better choice. Dragon's Bane has an EM stat of 48 and increases damage against opponents affected by Hydro or Pyro by 20%. These are two elements you will most probably use to react with Dendro. Overall, my recommendation for her is Favonius Lens as it helps with her ER, and also there's a chance for generating particles for your team. When you use her burst, there's a lot of chance to crit and trigger the weapon's effect while she is running around. Now let's see in which teams Yaoyao shines best. As a Dendro character that can allow you to trigger Quicken while being a dedicated healer, Yaoyao gives you more flexibility in building your aggravate or spread team. For example, if you wanted to create an ideal aggravate team, the general template would be 2 Electros to be your aggravate damage dealers, 1 Dendro to trigger Quicken, and a flex slot which is often recommended to be Anemo to shred Electro resistance. In this composition, the question is how to keep your team alive. While there are already options like Cookie, Sayu, Jin, Zhangli, etc., there are some costs of using them. If you use Cookie as a second Electro, especially to replace Fischl, you get healing but that costs you damage. Instead of Kazuha or Sucrose, opting for Sayu or Jin means that you will lose the damage buff Kazuha and Sucrose can give. If you put Zhangli as a shielder and resistance shredder instead of Anemo, you will get a really strong defense, though the damage ceiling will be lower compared to a very decent equipped Anemo unit. This is where Yaoyao comes in. You can put Yaoyao in the team as a quicken trigger, so you will have a place for both your enemy shredders such as Kazuha or your electro support such as Fischl along with your favorite electro DPS. Alternatively, you could also make Yaoyao the second Dendro unit in a spread team with Nahida, Tainari or Alhaden. She basically takes the place of the Dendro Traveler or Kole for carrying the 4-piece Deepwood set. But now you have an additional healing functionality. You don't need to burst every rotation in such quicken teams, as her skill alone can sustain the quicken aura for the most part. That way she can just save her burst for emergency healing situations. She is also a great addition to bloom teams as a healer. You don't have to use Barbara or Kokomi in a Nilou bloom team anymore. Her Dendro resistance increase during her burst is a nice advantage to have, since she can take a lot of self-damage from bloom explosions. But if she is the only Dendro unit in the team, she will have a very hard time keeping up Dendro application for the entire rotation. And so, whether it's the bloom team with or without Nilou, you may need a second Dendro applicator to ensure consistent bloom generation. When it comes to Hyper Bloom or Burgeon teams, Yaoyao can be enough as a solo Dendro applicator. Just don't forget to run around and jump to maximize your radishes after your first ascension. To conclude, Yaoyao is a great 4-star healer already at Constellation 0, and it's real fun playing with her. She offers an alternative way to keep your team alive in various situations, combining Dendro application and healing in one unit. So what do you think? Do you want to summon her or level her up after seeing this video? Let me know in the comments what your opinion is about her. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hope to see you in my next video. Bye!